Hello, I'm Jazz Haggerty, and today we're going to talk about motivational interviewing. We'll take a look at what motivational interviewing is and where it came from, the spirit of this counselling method and its guiding principles and practice, and we'll also have a brief look at how this could be used to facilitate a client's action to engage in long-term exercise participation. Motivational interviewing is a counselling technique that uses a directive, client-centered approach to help clients enhance their motivation for change by helping them explore and resolve ambivalence. It emphasizes a therapeutic and collaborative partnership between the client and the clinician, in which the client's autonomy is respected and supported, and their intrinsic resources for change are elicited by the clinician. Motivational interviewing grew out of Miller and Rolnick's work in the field of addiction medicine and Prochaska and de Clement's stages of change model. Miller and Rolnick suggested that there are three critical components to motivation, the first being the importance of change for the individual or their willingness to change, the second being their confidence to make the change or their ability, and the third being whether change is of an immediate priority to the individual or their readiness. Prochaska and de Clement's stages of change model postulates readiness to change as a dynamic process in which the pros and cons of change generate ambivalence. And this is where a person feels conflicted because they're experiencing opposing ideas, thoughts, emotions simultaneously. So essentially they're stuck. On the one hand, they want to change, and on the other, they don't. The stages of change model progresses through the stages of pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Relapse is also an aspect of this model, which may seem counterintuitive to motivation, but it's actually a really important stage in which an individual can learn how to maintain change in the future. This stage is recognised and normalised in motivational interviewing. By using the techniques of motivational interviewing, strategies can be tailored to fit each individual's stage of change. The spirit of motivational interviewing can be broken down into three simple concepts. Firstly, collaboration, and this refers to the partnership built between the client and the clinician. The clinician acknowledges that the client understands themselves best and they work together as a team. Evocation occurs when the clinician elicits the client's personal motivation for change by evoking their reasons for change. And lastly, honouring the client's autonomy. While the clinician may inform and guide and advise the client, it is important to acknowledge, without judgment, the client's freedom of choice. Motivational interviewing contains four guiding principles, represented by the acronym RULE. So firstly, R, resist the writing reflex. Telling someone what they need to do and how to do it can often have the opposite effect by unintentionally reinforcing the client's original arguments to maintain their current behaviours. In motivational interviewing, it's important to resist the urge to set someone onto the right path so that the person's motivation for change can be explored. Next is U, and this is for understanding the client's motivation. It's important to remember that it's the client's reasons for change that matter rather than anyone else's, because what motivates one person may not motivate another. A good approach is to engage with the client to understand their interests, values, and concerns and explore their reasons for change. This will help identify the client's motivations and any potential barriers they may feel are stopping or inhibiting them from making change. Next we have L, and this is for listening with empathy. Being able to listen effectively to the client is key to understanding what motivates them and the pros and cons of their situation. A good rule of thumb is to spend equal amounts of time talking and listening. And finally, E, empower your client. A truly collaborative partnership between client and clinician is a powerful motivator, and outcomes improve for clients when they are active participants in the planning and implementation of their treatments. This collaborative therapeutic relationship is most beneficial when the clinician is encouraging and confident that the client can make the changes. To help empower the client, you can explore their own ideas about how they can make change and draw on their own knowledge about what might have worked for them in the past when they wanted to make change. In practice, motivational interviewing can be broken down into two phases: building the motivation for change and strengthening commitment to change. In the first phase, the acronym OARS embodies the basic motivational interviewing skills. O. Ask open-ended questions. This gives the clinician a window into what the client cares about and their goals and values. A. Affirmations. It's important that the client knows that you appreciate and understand them and their individual needs and struggles. It also helps to build that strong therapeutic relationship and helps support and validate the client during the change process. R. Reflections. Reflect and rephrase what the client has said back at them. This will help you both know that you're on the same page. It will also encourage exploration of the client's behaviours, which can help them to understand their motivations for change more clearly, which in turn may reinforce and amplify their desire for change. And finally, S. Summarising. This checks in with the client and links back to your previous discussions. This enables the clinician to ensure a mutual understanding of the discussions so far and to point out the differences between the client's current behaviour and their goals. It also lets the client know that they've been heard and understood. Phase 2, strengthening the commitment to change, involves eliciting change talk and working together to set goals and to make a change plan. There are many ways to elicit change talk, but a very quick and simple way to do this is to use an importance ruler. So you might ask the client to think of a scale between 0 and 10 of how important it is for them to engage in long-term exercise. So 0 would be not very important at all, and 10 would be extremely important. So let's say they said 6. You would then ask them, why are you at 6 and not at 0? Why are you at 6 and not at 10? What would it take for you to go from a 6 to an 8 or a 9 or even 10 and explore their answers? This identifies and highlights the discrepancy between the client's current behaviours and where they want to be, which is at the heart of motivating people for change. Next, it's important to build the client's confidence to make these changes. And again, for this, you could use a confidence ruler. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you could make these changes? And then again, go through those questions and explore their answers. Finally, you'll decide on a change plan together. This includes standard goal setting techniques using the spirit of motivational interviewing and getting the client to tell you what they plan to do rather than you telling them. If you feel the client needs guidance on setting appropriate goals, ask them if this is okay first in order to honour their autonomy. Motivational interviewing is a good technique to use with clients who are trying to enhance their exercise participation and maintain this participation for a few reasons. So firstly, because it gets the client to really think about their reasons for change, such as improving their mental and physical well-being, as well as their motivations for change, such as being able to run around more with the kids. It also helps them explore and resolve any potential barriers they feel they may have to making the change to regular exercise, such as perceived lack of energy or time. And by resolving this ambivalence, the client is much more likely to make and maintain the change to regular exercise. Secondly, motivational interviewing supports the client to set realistic exercise goals. Goal setting is a really important part of exercise adherence and helps the client recognise the gains they are making when they meet these goals. This fosters a sense of competence, which in turn can improve motivation. Goals should always be challenging but attainable for the individual, which means that they will differ from person to person. Motivational interviewing really allows the clinician to understand and get to know their client and their situation, which allows them to help the client set appropriate goals for them. And finally, by acknowledging that relapse is a normal part of change and that motivation can shift and change over time and new motivations be found and explored, motivational interviewing can help clients realize that if they do stray from their exercise goals, they can always find their way back. As Miller and Rolnick said, you have what you need for motivation. Together, we'll find it. I really hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about the theories, principles, and practice of motivational interviewing and how it might be used to help facilitate a client's action to engage and maintain long-term exercise behaviours. Thank you for watching.